Hi, everybody. Welcome to class 2 of Watercolor Wednesdays. We are doing this free watercolor class every Wednesday in June. So thank you so much for tuning in. I know lots of you tuned in last week when we made these beautiful card fronts. They really turned out great. I got to say, I really do love them. And yeah, we used the stamp set that came in the kit, the exclusive homemade stamp set. Some of you have it, some of you don't.
Tanya's saying she doesn't have any sound.
Oh dear, no sound. Am I muted? Does everybody else have sound?
You're not muted here.
Someone else let me know you have sound. Let me just check it on here. Yeah, we've got sound. So, check your own things before you have us check ours because it stops the whole show here. Anyway, last week you joined in and we did the box opening. We created our little color legends so that we would know what colors. I have got mine over here somewhere in the fray. So that we know what colors we have for our paints and our aqua pastels. Lots of you are also just using what you have at home, which is great. This week, we're going to concentrate on backgrounds. So we did a little bit of background work on our flower card here, where we pulled the background out from the flower. Tonight, and we did that on dry paper. So we pulled it out and let the water kind of make its way to the edges. Tonight, we're going to go for more edge-to-edge backgrounding, a little more like this, where you're going to get this blend, and it's going to really be just a beautiful transition from one hue to the next hue. And we can practice this on a piece of just scrap watercolor paper. So if you've got a piece in your kit that you want to use, I don't blame you if you want to covet it and you only use it for your, but here's what I would also suggest that you also have. You've got, if you have it, if you have the kit, then you've got these park bench scenes. One of them is, I'm calling like the morning scene because it doesn't have any of these little illuminations. Do you see how this one could be nighttime because you can see the light would be on? Here, there's no illumination, so I'm assuming it's morning. And the reason, so we're going to do two different skylines. That's sort of where I'm, going with this. But you can use, if you're not going to send these as a card to anyone, like this is just, you practicing, then by all means, use the backs of these cards because this is a perfectly good piece of watercolor paper. Even though you're supposed to use the front of watercolor paper for just practicing, you're going to get mostly the same effect. So don't be afraid to use the back if these aren't, going to be a good copy, or you're not going to put this on a card front or anything like that. But if you do want to keep this as a good copy, we will paint these tonight as we go. But for now, let's just start by saying hello. Is there any, lots of people bought more paper.
Yep.
The mini kits, if you ordered them last week, some have arrived, some haven't arrived for you yet. Just depends on how far you are from me. We did our very best to get them out as fast as possible, so that people would get them. But once they leave our hands and they're out in the universe, there's nothing much we can do except for hope, just like you. We had a few that we brought right to FedEx so that they would, we wouldn't have to wait a day for them to get picked up here. And we brought them there and they never scanned them. And either someone is watching this class right now and going, "Wah, I stole the kit." If that's you, you jerk. Anyway, it's out of our hands at some point, but we will do our best to get it replaced for you if that happened. So when we're talking about backgrounds, let's just go through a couple of examples of, you saw this one with the blend we're going to do, but some things that you can do on your own when you've got like a great background that is able to flow is something like this. Or what about even just, now this is very hard to see on camera, but let me just show you right up close here. See those white stripes? So I did that by laying down some washi tape. So you got washi tape in your kit, or maybe if you're a crafter, you've got a whole stash of washi tape. Go ahead and lay some down because it will resist the water. And you can do, great techniques like this where you've got that watercolor background. This is great if you're a scrapbooker or you want to make a card. That's a great watercolor background that, when you resist, really looks good. That's what I did with that one too. Same with this one. I did the florals all around the washi tape. And of course, that background is all watercolor. And you can just have some fun. Put some color down and put some black writing over it. If you got the kit, you've got a black brush pen in your kit. You could do a little hello or happy birthday. And just have some fun with all kinds of different colors. Backgrounds are really, really fun, and you can't mess it up. You really, really can't. The only way I would say that you could mess up a background is if you mix too many colors together and it starts to get muddy.
They would like a brush lettering class now, so they can add words.
Yes, that's a great idea. Tamara, spill the beans. We know that's in the works. That's in the works, you guys. But there's honestly, there's so many fun things. And it's just us. It's just me. It's just Tamara and Karen behind the scenes and Natasha. And we're just like, how much fun things can we do in 1 year? But we are having a little put our heads together the midsummer to go okay, what other fun things can we do next year? I definitely think we should do another watercolor Wednesdays. I already love doing it. It's only week 2. And maybe I'll put together another kit with a few more supplies or different kinds of supplies. So you'll be really tricked out. Or you can just keep using what you've got in this kit. Definitely brush lettering is one. We've got another bra making coming. Of course, we've got the quilting coming in the fall. Also, we have a Cricut event coming up in the fall, and the projects for that are going to be announced next week. You guys, we've got the go ahead from Cricut.
Mel says, "Oh yes, sign me up."
I know, everybody. That's good. That's really good. Okay, so let's get to tonight's lesson. And really what we're going to do is a different technique where we're going to let the water do all of the work tonight. So I'm just going to take a little sheet of, I know it's white on white, you guys. Maybe should I have a different color or something? I'll put the clipboard down.
Oh, Mel's excited about another bra making event too.
Yeah, I need some underwire. Okay, so we'll go overhead and I'll just zoom in just a little bit so you can see a little bit. There we go. So I've got my paint here, but most importantly, what I need right now is clean water. Clean water, everybody. So I've got 2 jars. One's going to be for my dirty water and one's going to be for my clean water. I also have some paper towel. I'm going to put the paper towel right underneath my actual page.
Quick question before you get started.
Sure.
Tanya Holden Parker is asking about watercolor paper. So she's got some, and one side is rough and one is almost perfectly smooth. Does it matter?
Yeah, go on the rough. Yeah, you want that tooth to help push that water around and it'll help absorb in. Okay, so I've got clean water here. Oh, and if anyone got their subscription box this week, if you know, you know. This, I thought, oh, look, we could use it as a little brush holder so they dry out. So this is actually a soap holder from the subscription box, but I was like, oh, double duty. I love things that can be double duty. So let's just start with some clean water. And we're going to be using our largest flat brush. So the largest flat brush and a good amount of water. And I'm just going to cover my whole page in water. I really don't want there to be any dry streaks on here. And so you might have to look right up close to make sure. And sometimes if you get it to catch the light, then you can tell whether you've missed a little spot or your brush was dry, especially in the corners. The other thing you can do here is tape down your sides with your washi tape. if you're finding that you don't like the curling. But I like being able to pick it right up. And I mean, you can still do that if you've got it on a clipboard and you tape it down. I'll probably do that when I do my for real one. But for now, I just want lots of water on here. And then let's wake up our paint palette here. I'm going to do that with just a little spray brush, but you could, or a little spray bottle. I should have put one of those in the kit. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That kind of makes me annoyed. Sorry, guys.
It's watercolor kit point 2.
2.0.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. This has tons of water. Let's just take any old color. I'm just going to take red for right now. And don't dip it in your clean water. Keep your clean water clean. I'm just activating that red, getting some red on my brush. And all I'm doing here is just going to go straight across with the red. And see what's happening here? When you go wet on wet, the water will really do a lot of the movement and you can literally watch it drip down your page. And so now if I activate a little bit of my orange, let's bring the orange in. And it's just going to take care of blending together. And you can't really achieve this sort of natural blend unless your page is totally wet first. So I'm going to rinse off that orange. Dab so that it's clean. And let's bring in some yellow. I'm going to use that more goldy yellow in the kit. Let's bring in that yellow. Rinse. Maybe I'll bring it just one more line of yellow because the green that comes next in a rainbow will really be strong and it'll, you know, I don't want it to take over. All right, I'm going to bring in more of like the mossy green. Maybe it should be brighter. Let's do the brighter one. Why not?
Angela's asking, can you do this style of painting with the crayons on the pencils?
So we'll get to that. Yes. However, I want to point out you cannot with the crayons put the dry crayon on the wet paper. You can, however, if you and we'll get to it in just a sec, you can color some like a line down first and then activate it. But once we get there, I'll warn you, sometimes when you're coloring like kind of vigorously on watercolor paper, you see some of the pencil marks or the crayon marks if it doesn't all dissolve. So I just want to warn you about that. We might get to it. So let's do this one first, and then we'll use the pastels. All right, I'm going to bring in some blue next. Look at this. Okay, so look what happened here. It's a little too dry. So I'm just cleaning off my brush. Clean brush, clean water. Let's just go down with some water and activate that again. The green's going to want to go, so let's bring in that blue right away. So this is wet on wet technique. And you'd be very hard pressed to be able to get this sort of ombre finish any other way. Now, if you want to darken things up, just go over it again. But remember, you want to make sure everything is still wet. This will dry a little bit lighter than it is right now. I did break out the heat gun tonight so that you can see what I meant. Last week we talked about a heat gun. This is just a regular craft heat gun. I got it at Michael's like, I don't know, 15 years ago. Maybe it's still going strong. But you'll see how much lighter everything will dry. And you can darken it up, but I would dry it first. You can see even the red. Look at how it's looking much more pink. Had a little bit of pooling with the orange there at the side, but that's okay. I could trim that off if I was doing a background for a card. Just make sure you're drawing underneath and up top so that everything doesn't totally flatten one way. You can see how the paper like tends to warp when you're drying it. All right, it's almost completely dry. It looks nice.
It looks really good.
It looks really good. So you could do something like take your stamp and just stamp it on to onto the card if you wanted. I'm not going to stamp it. I'll just kind of show it because this one's got the black ink kind of stained on it. You could take one of your stamps and do it like that. It is Pride right now, so that would look very cool. You could send that to someone. Or you could take your brush pen. I don't know if I have it right here, do I? You could take your brush pen or one of your art liner pens, or you could even take your water brush and use it. Just be careful if you're using watercolor on here because it'll tend to like want to go. So I would use one of your art liner pens, and maybe you could just do a little, before you write on it, make sure, you guys, that it's super dry. You don't want to, with your art liners, you don't want your paper to even be a little bit wet. Smart's giving me a brush pen. Thank you. Don't worry about the paper warping. You can get that smushed back down. So even with just your let's see, I've got a number 8 here, 0.8. Let's just write happy. So write in your neatest writing. This is going to be like a little bit of a brush lettering lesson, a little preview on what we'll cover when we actually do brush lettering. I'm just going to write it as neat as I possibly can. And I'll just do Happy Pride since this is a rainbow flag. And obviously you don't want to give someone just like, your own writing on here. So here's how to fancy it up. Everywhere you do a downstroke, thicken it. So just box it out and color it in. This is called faux calligraphy. So you can see with the H, I went down and then I went up on the hump and then down. We're kind of veering off our background lesson here, but this is just a fun thing to learn. Everywhere you physically move your brush down, just thicken that stroke. And then your writing, your own handwriting, will look that much more font-like. So even I went down on the curve of the P there. So I went down on that part of the Y. And I went down on that part of the Y so I can thicken it. Look, it looks cute too if you don't even color it in, if you just leave it. So I went down on the stick of the P. And the one side of the R, on the I, on the left hump of the D, the back of the D, the back of the E. And let's do like a little, why not?
Cute.
So even if you don't have a stamp, but you still want to make, Tamara, will you grab me the paper cutter there? Even if you don't have a stamp that says whatever you want it to say, you can still use your own writing. It's still a totally handmade card. I'm going to get one of the card backgrounds here. Thank you. We're really diverging. I'm just going for it. I'm just going to, so that you can see this on here, I'm going to trim off just the side of that pooling. See where
zoom out a little bit.
Oh, I'll zoom out, yeah. Where I had that little orange puddle. We can just trim that right off. No one will ever be the wiser. I don't want to take too much off of this side because I've got the writing there. Right? Look at that. And you could use some of your glue dots. And that's just a great way that you can turn, like, make a card like that with just some great backgrounds. You could even just do this one color or two colors. As long as you've wet the entire thing first, you're really going to be able to allow that water to mix the colors for you. So that's a pretty fun technique. All right, I'll set this aside for right now. Let's move on to...
Someone's asking where you can get different color bases or envelope bases.
These ones that I've been using and that are in our kits are the ones from Basil and American Crafts. So they come all different colors. We can put a link if we find them. And they're just, it's great just to have a whole stash of pre-folded cards and envelopes. So I included some in the kit and in the mini kit. But that's who those are from, Basil and American Crafts. Okay, let's move on to how we can apply this sort of water wash technique to a couple of our actual images that are already stamped out for us here. So let's try doing a morning sky and a night sky. What should we start with, morning or night?
Morning.
Morning? Is that you saying that?
That's me.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to just use my washi tape and tape down now. Remember, anywhere I put the washi tape, I'm going to have a white border, and that sometimes looks kind of cool. Usually you end up trimming it off, so just be aware.
Charlene also says mornings.
Okay, fine. You win. Morning is good. All right, so you want your clean water. Remember, you've got your jar of dirty water. Now I've got my clean water. And I'm going to go ahead and wet this entire card front. And let's do like morning sunrise. So it might be a little more, what do you think? A little more yellowy sort of, or orange, like yellow kind of right at the horizon. And then it kind of goes up, or more orange and then kind of fades out. Do you think? Sure. Let's do it. Why not? So let's get it nice and wet. I don't want there to be any. So try to have it catch the light. And I like to swipe in the direction I'm going to paint in, not this way. I just find that the water will travel in the way that, I could be wrong about that. Maybe that's just in my mind, but I tend to do that. So, all right. Let's start with our, okay. I've kind of moved a little too fast here. This is what I'm going to do first. I'm just going to take my paper towel and I'm going to just dry off the ground. I just jumped ahead too fast. I'm drying off just the ground, and I'm going to take my washi tape and I'm going to tape off the ground. Okay. Right flat, straight. Okay. That's going to give us that nice resistance. And we can put grass down here and just keep the sky above the horizon. Sorry. And you can go ahead and cover the whole thing if you want, if you're afraid it'll drip on, but hopefully it's dry enough that it doesn't squeeze down there, but do as I say, not as I do. All right, I'll make sure this didn't dry up while I was messing up. Okay, let's start with some yellow, and I am going to go over top of the trees. We'll fill in the trees with actual green after, but I am going to go over them just for now. And let's let this water do the work. And I'm just going to let that kind of fade out. I'm going to tip it. And when I pick up some more, I'm bringing it to where I want the darkest hue to be. I'm not putting more halfway. I'm letting the water bring that morning sky up. When I add more paint, I add it to where the darkest spot should be. I'm not adding where I want it to travel to. Let the water travel it down. Now look at that. That's only 3 brush strokes, you guys. This looks like so pro. I always know it's good because tomorrow's like, wow, huh? Behind the camera, like, yes, I like it. So we could take it a little step further. Sometimes I don't like to mess with it if it's looking good. Remember, less is more, but we could add a little bit of orange. I'm gonna add it just to the bottom.
It's mesmerizing watching.
It is nice to watch it. And just let the sun rise. I have it on an angle. Less is more. You don't need to just paint. Let the water do that heavy lifting. Now look, here I'm getting like a little bit of pooling. I don't like that. So I can just stroke again, but mostly, or I can take a little corner of paper towel and pick it up. If you're pooling at the edges here like I am, you can lift that water up. We don't need it to saturate and pool at the tape line. We can pick that up. That looks pretty good. And if you want more, again, add it to where you want the color to be the strongest. Because remember, it will dry lighter. And let it just work its way up. I kind of think it looked better before. Let's make sure this is still wet. I'm just adding clean water here, clean water, just to make sure it's still traveling. It didn't dry up. That's clean water. And less is more, you guys. We don't need tons of paint. Let the water do the work there. That's it. That's a good little morning sky. So I could bring my heat gun to it now. I'll pick up some of this pooling. See how on this at the very top, the water's just sort of like draining there, like a little puddle. That's because we kept it on the angle, but just pick it up so you don't get little puddles at the top. Have a few little puddles like under the park bench there, but it'll dry as I'm heating it up here. Now, if you don't have a heat gun, don't sweat it. Just, you can kind of air it out like this. I'm just trying to go fast so that, because you guys can stop and start this and watch it again and take your time. But I'm going to try to keep this to about an hour. We were longer last week because we unpacked the box. But for the most part, these will be about an hour. So you can see it wanting to warp, but that tape is helping keep it down. Don't mind my vinyl here on the clipboard. That was a Cricut craft we did on TSC. We are on TSC next week, June 13th and 14th with both Cricut and Janome. So if you're wanting to sew or paper craft or get a good deal on any of that, we're on next week. So look at how much lighter and just how the hue, that morning hue. So let's just take off the bottom tape. Well, I got a little bit of spilling, just a little bit right like there, but it's not too bad. Try not to rip your paper. But look at that nice crisp edge. So now I can use this tape again, okay, and put it over top of the sky. Now, be careful, because if it's not totally dry, it's going to lift up, and you really do not want the tape to rip your paper. So if you were getting any tearing, then maybe you want to omit this step and just be a little more careful. Because actually, let's just omit that because I don't want you to risk it. I'm going to just dry this one more time. Make sure it's actually like really dry.
Ruby says it looks really good.
Aw, thanks, my Ruby. Ruby, my daughter, she made her card last week. Turned out very good. Love it. Has to be on display. She has been so excited for Watercolor Wednesday, so she's up in her room doing it as we speak, watching on the iPad. Ruby, you can use the heat gun later. Okay, so the water will only travel where it's wet. So when we're doing our nice fresh green grass down here, so long as we don't go past that line, we shouldn't have to worry about the water creeping up here as long as this part is now dry. So I'm going to take my clean water and I'm going to wet just to that horizon line, like just to it. I like just to the black. I don't want any white showing. How's everybody doing out there?
Everybody's just quiet.
Just watching.
Just
okay,
watching.
That's good.
Watching and doing, I guess.
Is anyone painting at the same time, or is everyone just watching and then they'll figure their own out later? All right, I'm just going to activate. Let's do like a bright green, and let's just let that wash right over.
Nell says she's mesmerized and learning.
Okay, so I've got some pooling here. I'm going to let it kind of reach that line. And see how it's not going past where the water is, even though I'm kind of fooling around with it. It's not going into the orange because the orange is dry.
Quite a few people were painting.
So if I'm going to add more, I'm going to add to where I want the darker to be. So right up by the horizon line, just dabbing a little more dark, and then let's let that fall. So I'm going the other way this time. Remember, I'm not adding more dark down at the bottom. I'm adding the dark up here. And you can mix your greens. I'm gonna mix in that mossier green now, so it's even darker. Look at this.
That looks good.
Look what you guys are painting. I told you you didn't need to be an expert. You didn't believe me. Just let the water do the work. And, you know, it's going to pool like it did on the other side. Get your paper towel and like pick it up off the tape or off the bottom.
Roseanne came late and she's just wondering what kind of paper you're using.
So this is watercolor paper. You want to make sure you're using watercolor paper, not mixed media paper, not regular printer paper, not cardstock. It has to say watercolor paper. And if Katie is on, she can put some links. I sourced some watercolor paper pads for you guys that I know, you know, that weren't too expensive, but that would work for what you guys are doing right now. It's not like, you know, the artist grade that's super expensive. I've got a Spectrum Noir pad up, and I've got some Strathmore up there. Great watercolor paper. The brand that is in your kit is the Spectrum Noir. It's the loose sheets. They didn't have any loose sheets left when I called them back after last time. So I got a bunch of pads in. There we go. That was pretty easy for, you know, like a very, very cool effect. So I can dry this up. And now if I want to paint my trees, I actually kind of think it looks very good just like that too. But if you wanted to paint your trees, you could do it more like we did last week and just paint them in with the watercolor paint. You wouldn't have to, like you wouldn't obviously get any of the background wet or anything like that. You would just paint them. Or you could just wet the circle and paint it in with a few different color greens. And it's okay to color over top of that yellow. No big deal. It'll just kind of mix in. All right, that's pretty dry. What I'll do is just lift it up off of the and pull the, so this is where I kind of like the using it because you get this nice border. I kind of think that looks good. Oh, I'm wasting all this tape. I should use this on the next card. But the washi tape does a really good job resisting because it's, I don't know what it's really made out of, but like painter's tape, it's got like that low, looks good, looks pro, right?
Looks great.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do that as a card, you could mount it easily. You could either trim off the white or leave the white. It would look really great. Could be a little framed print. You could put it on your desk, give it to someone, do a series. We are going to do a series tonight because we're going to do the night sky too. So let's bring in the nighttime one. We'll just set that over to the side to really, really, really dry. I'm going to tack down the night sky here. Oh, this one got cut a little close to the edge. Good thing I'm using this one. Hope yours didn't get cut that close to the edge. So I'm just reusing this washi tape. You can do that. So I do like taping it down because it keeps it nice and flat while you move your clipboard or whatever you're painting on. If you don't have a clipboard, you could use a binder. Sometimes if a binder is closed, it's even good because it'll sit up like this because the bulk of the binder will be here and it'll kind of lay flat down, and it's plastic on, usually plastic here. And so if water gets on, it's no big deal. So you could try that. This one's supposed to go at the side. Duh. All right, I'm not going to cover up my tree. So this one will obviously have to get trimmed because it got. So night sky. Night sky takes some special blending. So we're kind of working our way up. So it's a good thing we. Oh no! I touched my green. I put the green in the clean. Okay. Yes. Tamara is going to graciously get us some clean water. It really is important that. Well, I mean, important. It's not world hunger or anything if you put a little bit of dirty water on your watercolor. But thank you, Tamara. So we're going to do the same thing. Wash this right across with the clean water. But I'm also going to bring back my color palette from last week. This is all, stained from last week. You can reactivate all of this paint and keep using it. Or if you're starting with a clean one, that's fine too. For a night sky, I would recommend, we're going to do a little bit of mixing. So I'm going to tape off my grass, because I want to do that in like the darker hue of green. And I don't. Thank you. All right, clean water. Okay, clean water. Yes. Clean water right across the page. I maybe should have mixed some of my paint before I did this because I'll probably just have to activate it again. But let's in our paint palette here, let's lift up a little bit of blue, and I'm going to put it in my palette. So any of the blues, maybe even like a darker one, because we're going for night sky here. So you can see I got some blue in here, and sort of wring your brush out. By that, I mean, like, if you've got lots of water on it, get lots of paint on it and like wring it out so that the blue kind of gets in there. Where I'm kind of pushing the brush against the side.
Claire says, no worries in that. I almost drank my clean water cup instead of my water bottle.
Oh, good. I'm not alone. All right. So I've got a little bit of blue there, but let's add some red to that. So we get sort of like a dark purple going. Look at the difference now. We've really got like a dark purple going now. So I'm just going to rinse my brush. So let's take some of that dark purple and bring it right across for that night sky. Let's bring some just some blue. And I'm going over the trees. I'm not worrying too much about it. Mixing it with that purple. And let's let that water do the work here. If you want it a bit darker, that's that blue and red right from the palette. Let's like let it make its way down. All right, I'm doing too much with my brush. I got to leave it alone. Let it do its work. Let it do its thing. So I've got some pooling happening down here by the grass. We don't want puddles of blue, so let's just lift it up while this is taking its time to absorb. We can lift up some of that blue. The other thing I want you to do here, and we can lift it out of the trees too a little bit because we're going to paint over the trees anyway, is I want you to take a very clean corner of paper towel and just with your finger, I want you to lift that water right off of the light bulb. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to just take that little piece and I'm just with my finger going to lift that right off of the light bulb. Haha. Yes.
Magic.
Right? So it's taking that away and that's going to let us put some yellow there after and have that little glow of, you know, the street lamp in the night. Look how that's sort of like all melding together. I've got a little bit of extra dripping happening here, which I don't love. But I'm resisting the urge to bring my brush to it because that will ruin it. If I bring my brush to it, it's going to take away a lot of that paint. So I may be better off to bring my brush.
You might want to zoom out again.
Yeah, I'll zoom out again. Good call. Instead, bring my brush with some of those colors and water. Just add a bit more up top so that it starts to fall down and equal out. If it feels like too much paint, swipe away and then just sort of let it do its thing, make its way down. So let's see what's happening here. I'm getting a little bit of pooling where it just looks like a purple drip. So just lift that up. But look what happens if okay, so I'll just show you because this will ruin your painting if you do it. I'll just do it at the side. See what happens if I start brushing too much? Like that doesn't look natural. That looks painted. So you don't want to continue to brush. You want that water to fall down on it and let the water do the work.
Liz is going to do some painting with her granddaughter.
Oh, that's great.
Do part 1 and 2 on the weekend.
That's good. She got her kit.
Yep.
So it looks like it needs a little help in this corner. So again, lift up where it's pooling. Resist the urge to touch it with your paintbrush.
Oh, Linda says the purple in the middle looks more natural because the clouds in the sky are not perfectly even.
There you go.
So yours looks great.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So if I was just home alone doing this, I probably wouldn't use the heat gun. I probably would. It always looks a bit better if you let it dry naturally. Lift up whatever pooling you've got happening on your paint, on your tape, I mean, and maybe at the bottoms if you have some. And while that's working, I'll dry it just to get it going. We'll do the grass next. It's actually good because you'll be able to see what happened on the one side that I touched with my paintbrush versus the side that I just allowed the water to do the work. So you can see here as it's drying on the left there, like right in there, doesn't quite look as natural as the rest of the sky. And to be honest, we're getting a bit of a purple mark here too, that if I would have just let this dry or added a bit more water, it probably would have met, if I had a bit more water down here, it could have met down there a little more naturally too. So I could bring a clean brush if I wanted. I guess I do want. If I want to try to correct this, I could just bring some water back, clean water back. But if you're going to do it, you've got to go the whole way down. And it's got to be clean water. The whole way down. So I'll have to lift off my little light bulb again. But that's how you would correct that. You wouldn't just correct, you have to do the whole thing. See how I touched the brush just there and didn't swipe it a whole way over? So now I have to go over it again. The whole way. And go off of your page because your brush stroke will show if you lift it in the middle of your page. That's you don't want to see those brush strokes. So now I need to go back in with my little clean corner of paper towel and lift off my light bulb again. There, still glowing. So with my water brush, I'm just gonna activate it a little. Oh, this one's empty. Duh. No wonder it's not working. I'm like, come on, work. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of that goldy yellow color. Well, no, I'm gonna rinse it first. Let's do the same technique. Let's bring clean water to the light, to just the light bulb and sort of the surrounding area. Can you see? Do I need to zoom in a little?
Yeah, I'm good.
So clean water to the light bulb, and I'm going outside the lines to the surrounding area. And now let's just take some of that gold right on the tip of my brush. And let's let the water do its magic again. Let it make its way out. Because remember, it's going to... Okay, so see what's happening here? The water is making its way around the entire thing. So let's add a little yellow. Pick up in the middle if it's a little too bright. I'm going to add like the other color yellow too, just to give it some flame in the, or a little lighter in the middle.
Someone's asking if, curious, if blowing it with a dryer makes the paint or water move around at all versus
it does.
letting it dry naturally.
It does. Drying naturally is better, but longer. So there you've got the conundrum. So this is sort of going a little too far out. So I'm going to pick it up a little. And then with clean water again, I can put a little bit of that purple on my brush, or on clean water. I can just go down and correct that just the whole way across. So on something like this, I can, you could write something like, you are the light of my life, or you light up my nights, or, something cute. Yeah, if you can let your watercolor just sit for an hour or overnight or whatever, it's probably better than using the heat gun all the time, because it really does warp your paper, and it does move it a little bit.
Can you zoom out a little bit?
Yeah. While I'm drying this, let's take a look. Oh yeah, this is drying up really good.
Charlotte's doing hand embroidery as she's watching the watercolors.
Nice.
And so relaxing.
That's great. So now again, with the trees, I would use the water brush. You can use a regular paintbrush too. But the trees will look a little bit more nighttime because they've got that dark layer underneath. So I would just go through, and you can, with your water brush, just sort of paint those in. And the water won't escape because it's dry on the outside. If you want it to be more of a wash, lay down some water first. So you can just lay down with your water brush like this. Don't squeeze it too much. You don't want like a big drip. And then bring over your next color of green and let the water do the work.
Cheryl's asking, mine is not so dark. Once it's dry, can I add more pigment and water?
Yes. Once it's dry, you can do the exact same technique again. Just make sure you lay down your base of clean water. Don't do your trees until you're happy with your night sky, because you're going to want to go the whole way across. So see, with that tree there, I'm not going all the way over. I'm letting that lantern sort of look like it's illuminating it a little bit. So just be aware of like those kinds of things for like shadows and stuff like that. I'll just lay down a little bit of water on this bush here. And don't get too much water. If it feels like it doesn't need to be sopping wet, especially if you're coloring in. And look how it just spreads. And you can do the same kind of thing, like put it on an angle. If your colors are looking too similar, mix some. So take a little bit of green and then take some yellow and put it together and get a little more of a brownish green, or add a little bit of a lighter green to the mix and see what you can kind of come up with to, give yourself some new colors to play with. Just because those are the 12 colors on your palette, it's really infinite, the number of colors that you can mix together. Okay, got my trees there. I'm just going to make sure that so it's really quite a different look when you allow the water, you put that base of the water down first versus just color it in. So this one here, I just colored in. These ones have far more like shading. So since that's got a base, let's just bring a little bit more color to it and see if it'll do a little bit of movement. So we can kind of shadow it with a little bit more of that brown on the one side. Is it too dark on the screen, or do I need to lighten this? that's darker. Hold on, I'll lighten this so you guys can see better.
Looks good to me.
Okay. So I can feel like this tree's water is sort of starting to drip into this tree. I'm going to let that dry a little bit before I start painting that tree. So let's just do this one here. Get that base. I've got leftover green. It's pretty watery, so I'm just doing the whole base coat with that greenish color. And then I can bring in my darker after and let it kind of pick up. Just let the water spread that out a little. Okay, I got a little bit of pooling happening like along the top of my, so I could trim that off. I'll probably end up trimming that off because it's getting kind of dry. But I could take some clean water and just run it along there but remember, I need to go all the way down, so not good. Okay, one more. How did I forget that middle tree?
You were letting the water dry.
Yeah, I was letting that water dry. Or get. There we go. Not bad. So I'm just drying those trees a little bit before I pull off this tape, and then we can do the ground. You can see here on the trees, as I put that too close, it kind of moves it around a little. Sometimes it looks cool, but all right, let's carefully pull off the tape so we don't rip our paper. This is so satisfying, this part, where it's like, wow, it's perfectly preserved. How did I do that? Okay. So we probably want, a pretty like dark kind of brownish, grayish, pavement-y kind of, dark color, basically. So let's just get a couple of our like darkest greens and get this nice and like some of our darker greens. We'll add a little bit of red to it.
This is a good question. If we wanted to add minor details like stars in the night sky, could we apply a similar technique you did for the light bulb?
So I have a couple ways that I like to do stars in the sky, and I have that. It's coming up. So there's a couple of techniques. I'll just say it while we're on it. I brought down the salt shaker. I brought down some white acrylic paint and a toothbrush. I also brought, to show you, bleach. This is like, I know, household bleach. If you sprinkle any of these on to the night sky, the white paint will just sit on top. The salt you need to do while it's still wet, and it will pull. I did one earlier. So this one has the salt still on it. But when you wipe it away, it'll kind of give you that like starry galaxy effect. The salt will brush right off after it's dried. But because of the salt like absorbs the water, it kind of pulls the paint off of the, and then the bleach, I don't have one yet because I'll do the bleach on this. When you sprinkle the bleach, it literally just bleaches the page. So it looks like little stars. It's very, very cool. So give me a minute, we'll get to that, but that's a great technique. Okay, so here I've mixed a little like dark green or green with a bit of red. Just gonna add a little bit more pigment.
While you're doing that, what's the name of the tape?
It's washi tape. WASHI. Washi. You could use painter's tape, like the stuff that you paint your house with too. Like you might have that roll of green or blue. That's what basically this is. This is just like washi tape's just like a prettier, smaller version of it that a lot of crafters use. That looks a little too like forest greeny for me. Let's add a little bit of yellow. If you don't like your color, just add another color to it and see if you can make it better. So that was looking a little too forest green, so I just added some of that gold yellow. That kind of mossed it up a little bit. So this paintbrush is so saturated with paint. I'm going to take a clean brush. There's lots of flat brushes in your kit. And I'm just going to, again, water up. But only go to that line. We don't want it seeping over past the black line. If anyone watching didn't get a kit, but you want a little paint set like this, we've got them on the website just on their own. It's a good little kit, good little paint set. Great one to get started. Okay, and then I can bring my real color here. So we probably could make a little bit of a hue. I'll let this kind of go down first, but where the street light might make a little light mark on the grass there, we could probably lift up a bit of that paint. But let's get our darkest parts on there first. I'm just picking up more paint and putting it at the edge, and I'm resisting the urge to paint all the way down. Can you see me like,
I feel like doing it.
Yeah, I know. It's very hard. This is the hardest part, is to know when to stop. It's the hardest part of watercoloring, is to know when to stop. And let the water bring it down. Now, if it, like here, this part down here maybe wasn't wet enough. So we can add a bit more clean water there. See if we can pick it up a little, but resist. That's clean water just there. So now it's coming down a bit more. And same technique like with the light bulb. If we wanted to make a little where the light was shining, our finger and a little paper towel, we could just take off a little of the water there where it might make a little shadow. Well, it's not a shadow. It's like, a beam of light. And still be dark everywhere else. Notice how I'm not painting down to the end. I'm just putting it up top. Picking up a little bit of that pooling that's coming off on the tape. And if you want, you could, with your brush, bring in a little yellow if you wanted, and you could put it right there. So it looked like it was going down. A little too much water. Pull some up. See what I mean?
Looks good.
So while this is sort of drying, we'll get to the starry night. I'm going to do it with the bleach, but you really have to be careful that, you don't want the bleach hitting the trees and the grass and all of that. And if you were a hardcore card maker, like me, like I've been, then you would have masking paper and you could cut out the exact size mask, or you would have masking fluid and you could tape it right or paint it right onto your trees and your grass, and then it would peel right off. There's all kinds of products. But for us, for tonight, I'm literally just going to lay down some paper towel, just sort of like, and just kind of protect it. You do need to protect the parts that you don't want to get bleach on. So I'm just going to kind of do it in a V like that. And I mean, if I get out of this exercise right now without dyeing my hair platinum, it'll be a miracle, because I'm, that's the kind of thing that happens.
Watch your sweater.
Watch my, I know, and my jeans. So just be careful here. You might want to do this over the sink, but I'm taking one for the team here. I'm just putting a little bit of bleach in the lid. Okay, I managed to not spill it, but now it has no lid on it, so for sure it's going. Oh my gosh, I'm putting this on the floor.
Yeah.
And take a paintbrush or a toothbrush, or I'm going to take one of the paintbrushes.
Cheryl says Jen needs a smock.
I know, totally. And all we're going to do is that technique where you kind of just splatter it. So I've got a little hard edge on my paint scraper and just a regular paintbrush. And I'll zoom in so you can really see what happens. So I'm going to just practice this on, I'll just practice this for a second on this one first, just to see if I get like tons of overspray or if this is the right. Is this like watered down bleach or what? Maybe I'll just give it a sec. I swear this works. All right, I'm going to let this just sit for a minute. Obviously, I didn't test this out ahead of time, but I've done this a million times and it always works. Let me just try to pull some off of the paper towel and see if it's working. Maybe I got some like bum bleach here. Oh no, it is working. It just needs to sit for a little bit longer. All right, I'm just going to go for it on the, and if it doesn't work, it does work. Maybe this bleach doesn't work, but it will work. Okay, not too much. You don't want it dripping. You don't want a big water. And then just sort of sprinkle it on your night sky.
Will the bleach mess up your paintbrush?
No, it really doesn't. Just sort of cleans it. Just rinse it off after. Oh, I got some on the tree there for sure. I'm going to lift that off, although it's probably too late. All right, let's leave that for a little bit. I'm going to just rinse it right off. and we'll see what happens with this. The other technique that's a surefire, since the bleach is not really giving me that like it normally would, is a little bit of white acrylic paint. So if you have white acrylic paint, you can put it in your palette, and with some clean water, same technique. I like to kind of make it a little liquidy. This is obviously not like pure snow white. It's sort of looks a little beige, but it'll look white against the. And then, I want to cover up my trees here.
Maybe move your picture up a bit so we can see what you're doing.
Although this could also look like snowflakes. So if you wanted it to look like snowflakes, then you could leave your trees. It sure smells like bleach. I don't know why that wasn't. I'm just going to test this over here. So that white acrylic paint, just try not to get a big blob if you can. Can you see it splattering?
Mm-hmm. Oops.
A little too much. See, you got to know when to stop. And because this is acrylic, it's not going to lift off like the watercolor will. It'll just smear. So it is what it is. Wherever it lands, that's where it is. All right. There's a little bit of, we could have had a little extra paint down here.
Someone said, let's see a shooting star.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I could just give that a little tail.
Mm-hmm. Looks cute, though.
So there's our day and our night. Two super different looking cards or paintings, whatever you want to turn it into. I didn't do the trees here, but you could. We're 20 after 8. I'm supposed to only go till 8. Huh. Sorry. Yeah. The other thing I was kind of thinking that we could go over tonight, but maybe we'll save it for next week, is using your pens to do backgrounds, like freehand backgrounds like this. Even though we're talking about a totally different technique, this is going to allow you to use those washes as an actual backdrop and then have some decorative things and just draw them out. Now, I know you might be looking at this going, well, I can't draw that, but honestly, I bet you can. So at some point before our series is up here, we'll go through how you can kind of start to develop like that way of thinking where you will be able to draw some things like that with the markers in your kit, or if you have like sort of bullet pens at home, like a Statler or a Micron or a fine line art liner marker like we had in the kit.
Does the bleach technique work with distress ink?
It works with all kinds. I've done it with watercolor before too. It does work. I think I just need more of it, and I don't know. Maybe this is like no name. I need real Javex or something. But, or no, I've done it with watercolor before because, in fact, one time in one of these things, in fact, I did it with this, where I painted it on with bleach and did the cloud, and it took it right up. I've also used bleach on my paintbrush and written on a big background and used the bleach as the ink, and it just lifted it up. I'm not sure. Maybe their speckles were just too small or something like that. I wonder if I tried writing on this background, just if that would work. Move these. Let's just try this. Oh yeah, I see the, all right, let's just see.
Oh, you can see where you've written, but maybe it's just wet.
So I'm writing with pure bleach here.
Well, someone says the bleach is lightening the sky on mine. It just took a few minutes.
Yeah. It's going to lighten up here too. It is just going to take a few minutes. And maybe the speckles are so small, it's hard to see on camera and all that. But look, hey, it's something that you can try at home when you're, just having a bit of fun and getting messy and, not worrying about whether the outcome is perfect or not. If you're really desperate for that technique, use the white paint, dilute it a little bit. The salt is really fun on the galaxy sky. This looked like that beforehand, before you put the salt, and then it kind of like lifts it away. Gives you like more of that galaxy kind of look. So have a little play around. Backgrounds are really fun in watercolor, and there's all kinds of different ways you can go with it. And the mixing of the colors is really what's so fun. Just make sure you're starting with that clean water across your whole sheet. And every time you have to like end to end, resist the urge to lift up in the middle of your paper. That's where you get the pooling. Otherwise, if you can kind of go end to end, then you'll end up with really smooth ombre shades like we managed to achieve in our park bench pieces here. Not bad for not being an artist.
That's great.
All right, the bleach is working here. By next week, this will be showing through by next week.
Can you dry it with the heat gun, or?
I don't know. I'm gonna just dab it with the paper towel and see what comes up. Probably just coming up like regular water.
Oh yeah, you can sit there. Oh, someone's asking for homework.
Homework. This week I didn't plan any homework for this week. But I would love to see what you come up with. I want you to try this on some of your pages. See what different colors you can blend out. See what kind of background you can create. Yes, I've given you these. Next week, we're doing the lighthouse. And so in your kit, you've got the the lighthouse here. And so we're going to do a mix on the lighthouse of exactly what we've done here, but in a much more realistic way. So this painting here, if you've practiced, this week, on the backgrounds, and you'll really be able to get that light bursting out of the lighthouse. And we're going to do a mix of a water wash and more deliberate paintings next week. So we're going to mix our two techniques where we do a little bit of coloring in like we did week 1 with a little bit of backgrounding like we've done here tonight, week 2. So week 3, it'll really feel like a painting. So give it some thought this week too on how dark or light or blue, what time of day is this lighthouse going to be beaming for you next week? So you can kind of start to think how you might want this to look, because this could be a very frameable piece when you're done.
Are the pre-printed sheets in the mini kits?
Yes, they are. Everything is in the mini kit except for the pastels and there was something else.
Face.
Oh yeah, the faces, the pad, this pad here. On week 4, we will be painting some portraits. And this pad has some already sketched out for us on watercolor paper. But if you have the mini kit, then you don't have the portraits, but you'll be able to play along with what we're doing. I'll show you how you can, kind of put a face line down with the pen that's in your kit. And if you're wanting some supplies, an extra pad of paper, or if you are joining us and wanting to follow along even a little bit, we do have some of these tins. I have some leftover ones from the kits. This is the thing with kits. You have to have all the pieces to make the kits. But when you're buying the paints and the brushes and all this stuff from all over the place, sometimes they make you buy them in 6-packs or 12-packs or whatever. And so you never end up with a totally even amount. So you can only put together the number of kits for the lowest number of whatever is in the kit. And then you have a few leftover things. So we've got some more paint tins, and we've got a few art liners. We've got some stamps left. We've got some water brushes left. So I've put up on the website a few things that we've got left. I'll continue to put them up as I kind of find them. I'm bad at this. I should be better, but I'm not. Anyway, so if you're wanting to follow along but don't have a kit, but you would like the paints, then you can check them out there. And I think we definitely have to schedule another round of watercoloring Wednesdays. I'm not sure when the best time to do it is, like whether it's in the summer or just we'll do it more in the fall. You guys let me know in the comments if you'd be up for another round of watercolor Wednesdays and when it should be. Sometimes the summers are just too hectic, but watercoloring in the summer is the best. At the very least, you'll take what you've learned in this series and you can be doing your own all summer. And then maybe we come back in the fall and do some,
some fall colors.
Some fall colors. And maybe we, could start even doing some Christmas cards or Thanksgiving, type things. That's nice.
Someone was asking, is there any way they could get a digital copy of the lighthouse? Or
if you want, I can put on our website. I could upload it, and if you wanted to download the images, no problem at all. You want to print it on watercolor paper, and you want it to be a laser printer. I took literally to my local printer a big stack of loose watercolor paper and gave it to my local printer and said, could you print this laser copy on the watercolor paper? And it went through their printers, no problem. I didn't do it on my home printer because I don't have a laser printer. But it was only, what was it, like 50 cents a sheet or something like that to print it out. So then you could have lots of copies. So I'll put that up. I'll put those images up, and I'll put a link. Where should we put the link? I'll post the link everywhere. In these comments. I'll post it in the homemade group. If you're not a part of the homemade group yet, just head on over to Facebook, because we can put lots of exclusive things in there, like that kind of a thing. And then you can download it yourself and you can be making lots of copies. All right, I think we better wrap it up tonight. If you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll look as the week goes by. And please, 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 if you're in the homemade group, be posting or on social media, tag me if you post your watercolor makes this week. I'd love to see them. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week, 7 o'clock Wednesday for Watercolor Wednesdays. Bye.